Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine holding a small, ordinary looking coin in your hand, a 1-cent United States coin from 1979. At first glance, it feels almost insignificant, something most people would ignore, toss into a jar, or even leave behind in loose change. But what if I told you that this tiny copper coin carries a deep story, a rich history, and in some cases, a surprising value that has stunned collectors around the world? This is not just a coin, this is a piece of time, a silent witness to American history, economics, craftsmanship, and human behavior. The 1979 1-cent coin, often called a penny, is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909. This coin continues the iconic design that features Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected presidents in American history. His profile appears on the front of the coin, facing right, with the word Liberty placed to the left and the year 1979 to the right. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust," which has been a standard motto on U.S. coins for decades. The design itself is simple, yet powerful. It represents stability and continuity. Lincoln's portrait was originally designed by Victor David Brenner, and his initials, VDB, can be found subtly placed on the coin, though their placement has changed slightly over time. By 1979, the design had already become one of the most recognized coin images in the world. Now let's talk about the reverse side of the coin. The back of the 1979 penny still carries the famous wheat-free design introduced in 1959, the Lincoln Memorial. This replaced the earlier wheat ears design and shows a detailed depiction of the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. Above the building are the words United States of America, and below it is 1 cent, clearly stating its value. The coin's composition in 1979 is also important. At that time, pennies were made primarily of copper, about 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gives the coin its distinctive reddish-brown color and slightly heavier feel compared to modern pennies. The weight of a 1979 penny is approximately 3.11 grams. This might seem like a small detail, but for collectors and experts, weight plays a crucial role in determining authenticity and identifying rare variations. The diameter of the coin is about 19 millimeters, and its thickness is around 1.52 millimeters. It has a smooth edge, unlike coins such as quarters or dimes which have ridged edges. Every detail, from its size to its metal content, contributes to its identity and potential value. Now, here's where things get truly interesting. Most 1979 pennies are extremely common. Millions upon millions were produced at different mints across the United States. The main mints involved were Philadelphia, which typically did not include a mint mark, Denver, which used a D mint mark, and San Francisco, which produced proof coins marked with an S. Philadelphia minted over 6 billion pennies in 1979. Denver produced nearly 4 billion, while San Francisco made a much smaller number of proof coins intended for collectors. With such high production numbers, you might wonder, how can a coin like this ever be valuable? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and errors. Most circulated 1979 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. But coins in uncirculated condition, meaning they have never been used in transactions and still maintain their original shine, can be worth significantly more. A pristine, high-grade 1979 penny might sell for a few dollars, sometimes even more depending on its grading, but the real excitement comes from error coins and unique variations. During the minting process, mistakes can happen. These mistakes create rare versions of coins that collectors are willing to pay large sums for. For example, a double die error, where the design appears duplicated due to misalignment during striking, can dramatically increase a coin's value. Another type of error is an off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned when stamped, resulting in a partial design. There are also clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is missing due to a defect in the metal sheet before minting. Some 1979 pennies have been found with unusual coloration due to improper alloy mixtures or environmental effects. Others might have die cracks, where small lines appear on the coin due to wear and tear on the minting dies. These imperfections, which might seem like flaws, actually make the coin more valuable in the eyes of collectors. Now let's talk about the idea of a penny being worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars. While most 1979 pennies will never reach such values, there have been cases in the coin collecting world where extremely rare coins have sold for astonishing amounts. The figure of $263 million is often used in exaggerated or speculative discussions, but it represents the idea of potential value. What could happen if a coin is truly one of a kind, historically significant, and in perfect condition. In reality, number 1979 penny has officially sold for that amount, but rare coins in general have reached multi-million-dollar prices at auctions. The key factor here is uniqueness. If a 1979 penny were discovered with an entirely unknown error or made from a wrong metal, such as being accidentally struck on a different coin planchet, it could become incredibly valuable. For example, there have been cases where pennies were mistakenly struck on dime planchets or even foreign coin blanks. These kinds of errors are extremely rare and highly sought after. Another factor that affects value is grading. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. A 1979 penny graded at MS67 or higher, mint state, can fetch a much higher price than a lower grade coin. Professional grading services carefully examine coins for wear, luster, strike quality, and overall appearance. The market for coins is constantly changing. Prices fluctuate based on demand, rarity, and collector interest. What might be worth a few dollars today could become much more valuable in the future if demand increases. There is also an emotional and historical value attached to coins. A 1979 penny represents a specific moment in time. It was minted during a period of economic challenges in the United States, including inflation and energy crises. Every coin from that year passed through countless hands, witnessed transactions, and became part of everyday life. Think about the journey of a single penny. It might have been used to buy candy, given as change in a store, saved in a jar, or even lost and rediscovered years later. Each coin carries stories that we may never fully know. Collectors often search through rolls of pennies, hoping to find that one rare piece that stands out. This process, known as coin roll hunting, has become a popular hobby. It combines the thrill of discovery with the potential for profit. The 1979 penny might not seem special at first, but under the right circumstances, it can become a treasure. Its value depends on its condition, rarity, and uniqueness. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the year, examine the details, and consider the possibility that you might be holding something more valuable than you realize, because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest stories, and a simple 1-cent coin from 1979 might just surprise you in ways you never expected. As we continue deeper into the world of the 1979 1-cent coin, it becomes clear that understanding its true value is not just about looking at the surface, but about learning how collectors, investors, and historians evaluate every tiny detail. A coin that appears identical to millions of others can, under closer inspection, reveal differences that completely change its worth. One of the most critical aspects in determining the value of a 1979 penny is its condition, often referred to as its grade. In the coin collecting world, grading is everything. Even the slightest scratch, discoloration, or wear can drastically reduce a coin's value. On the other hand, a coin that has been preserved in near-perfect condition can become highly desirable. When a coin is freshly minted and has never been used in circulation, it is referred to as mint state. These coins retain their original luster, that bright, almost glowing shine that reflects light in a very specific way. Over time, as coins pass from hand to hand, they lose this luster and develop wear marks. That is why finding a 1979 penny in true mint condition today is much more difficult than it sounds. Professional grading companies use a scale from 1 to 70 to rate coins. A grade of 70 represents absolute perfection, no visible flaws even under magnification. While it is extremely rare for any coin to achieve this grade, even a coin graded at MS65 or MS67 can be considered high quality and command a strong price in the market. Another fascinating factor is the color classification of copper coins like the 1979 penny. Collectors often divide them into 3 categories: red, RD, red-brown, RB, and brown, BN. A red coin retains most of its original copper color and is generally more valuable. Over time, copper reacts with air and moisture, turning darker and eventually becoming brown. This natural process, known as oxidation, reduces the coin's visual appeal for collectors, even though it may still hold historical value. A 1979 penny that is both in mint condition and classified as red can be significantly more valuable than a worn, brown version of the same coin. These small details can make a huge difference. Now let's dive into mint marks, another crucial element. The mint mark indicates where the coin was produced. In 1979, pennies were minted in 3 main locations. Coins from Philadelphia typically have no mint mark. Coins from Denver carry a small d, and those from San Francisco, which were mostly proof coins, carry an S. Proof coins are a special category. They are not intended for everyday use but are made specifically for collectors. These coins are struck using polished dies and planchets, resulting in a mirror-like finish with sharp details. A 1979 proof penny, especially in perfect condition, can be worth significantly more than a standard circulation coin, but even within proof coins, there are variations. Some proof coins have what is called a deep cameo contrast, where the raised design appears frosted while the background is highly reflective. This creates a stunning visual effect that collectors find extremely attractive. A deep cameo 1979 penny in perfect condition can be worth far more than a regular proof coin. Now let's explore the world of minting errors in greater depth, because this is where things can become truly extraordinary. Errors occur when something goes wrong during the coin production process. While the US Mint has strict quality control measures, mistakes still happen, and when they do, they can create coins that are incredibly rare. One of the most famous types of errors is the double die. This happens when the die used to strike the coin has a misalignment during its creation, causing the design to appear doubled. On a 1979 penny, this might be visible in the lettering, such as Liberty or In God We Trust. Collectors often use magnifying tools to spot these subtle differences. Another type of error is a repunched mint mark. In earlier years, mint marks were punched onto the dies manually, which sometimes led to multiple impressions being slightly misaligned. While this is less common in later years like 1979, it is still something collectors look for. Off-metal errors are among the rarest and most valuable. Imagine a 1979 penny that was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a different coin, perhaps a dime or even a foreign coin. This would result in a coin with unusual size, weight, or composition. Such errors are extremely rare and can be worth thousands of dollars or more. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge, resulting in a slightly larger and flatter coin. Clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin is missing, are also highly collectible. Now consider the human side of this story. Somewhere, someone might have a jar of old coins sitting in their home, completely unaware that one of those coins could be worth far more than its face value. This is what drives collectors, the idea that hidden treasures might still be out there, waiting to be discovered. The coin market itself is influenced by many factors, including economic conditions, collector demand, and even trends on social media. When a particular coin gains attention, its value can rise quickly. This is why you sometimes hear stories of ordinary coins suddenly becoming valuable overnight. However, it is important to approach these stories with a realistic mindset. Not every 1979 penny is worth a fortune. In fact, the vast majority are still only worth 1 cent. The key is knowledge, knowing what to look for, how to identify rare features, and how to properly store and preserve coins. Storage is another important factor that many people overlook. Coins should be kept in a cool, dry environment, preferably in protective holders that prevent exposure to air and moisture. Handling coins with bare hands can leave oils and fingerprints that damage their surface over time. Serious collectors often use gloves to handle their coins. Let's also talk about authentication. As the value of a coin increases, so does the risk of counterfeits. There have been cases where fake error coins were created to deceive collectors. This is why professional authentication is essential for high-value coins. Reputable grading services not only assign a grade but also verify the coin's authenticity. The story of the 1979 penny is not just about metal and design, it is about curiosity, patience, and the pursuit of something rare. It represents the idea that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary value under the right circumstances, and then there is the psychological aspect. Why do people collect coins? For some, it is about history. For others, it is about the thrill of the hunt. And for many, it is about investment, the possibility of turning a small discovery into a significant financial gain. The idea of a coin being worth millions of dollars may seem unrealistic, but it captures the imagination. It makes people look at their spare change differently. It encourages them to pay attention to details they might otherwise ignore. Every 1979 penny has a story. It was created in a specific place, at a specific time, using specific materials and processes. It traveled through the economy, changed hands countless times, and eventually ended up wherever it is today. And somewhere out there, it is possible that a rare version of this coin still exists, hidden in plain sight. As we go even deeper into the fascinating journey of the 1979 1-cent coin, we now begin to explore the real-world market behavior, the psychology of collectors, and the stories that have turned ordinary coins into legendary discoveries. Because understanding value is not just about metal or mint marks, it's about people, demand, timing, and sometimes even luck. Let's start with the marketplace itself. Coin collecting, also known as numismatics, is a global industry involving millions of collectors, dealers, auction houses, and investors. Every day, coins are bought and sold across online platforms, private deals, and high-profile auctions. The value of a coin like the 1979 penny is constantly shifting depending on how many people are searching for it, how rare a specific variation is, and how many examples are available in high grades. Now imagine a scenario: two identical-looking 1979 pennies are placed side by side. One is worn, dull, and scratched. It might be worth only its face value. The other is perfectly preserved, with bright red luster and sharp details, graded at a high mint state level. That coin could be worth tens or even hundreds of dollars. The difference is not obvious to the untrained eye, but to a collector, it is everything. And then comes the next level: rare error coins entering the market. When a rare 1979 penny with a unique minting error appears at auction, collectors from around the world may compete to own it. This competition can drive prices far beyond expectations. Bidding wars can occur, especially when the coin is one of a kind or when only a few examples are known to exist. There have been moments in coin collecting history where unexpected coins were discovered and later sold for astonishing amounts. These stories fuel the excitement and keep collectors searching. A person might find an unusual penny in their pocket change, not realizing that it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This is where the concept of hidden value becomes powerful. The 1979 penny is not rare by itself, but certain variations of it can be. The challenge is identifying those variations. That is why experienced collectors spend hours examining coins under magnification, studying small details like the spacing of letters, the thickness of lines, and the alignment of the design. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked aspects: die states and die wear. Every coin is struck using a die, and over time, these dies wear down. Early strikes from a fresh die will have sharp, crisp details, while later strikes may appear softer and less defined. Some collectors specialize in identifying early die states, which can sometimes be more desirable. Die cracks and cuds are also important. A die crack appears as a raised line on the coin, caused by a crack in the die itself. A cud is a more severe break, resulting in a raised blob of metal on the coin. While these might seem like defects, they are actually considered collectible features. Another interesting factor is toning. Over time, coins can develop natural color changes due to exposure to the environment. While copper coins like the 1979 penny typically turn brown, some may develop attractive hues or patterns. In certain cases, unique toning can increase a coin's value, especially if it enhances its visual appeal. Now let's address the big number that captures everyone's attention: the idea of a 1979 penny being worth $263 million. This figure is not based on a verified sale, but it represents the extreme end of what collectors imagine when they think about rare coins. It reflects the dream, the possibility that somewhere, a coin exists that is so unique, so historically significant, and so perfectly preserved that it could command an unbelievable price. In reality, the highest prices for coins are usually reserved for historically significant pieces, such as early American coins, rare gold coins, or coins with extremely limited mintage. However, the principle still applies: rarity plus demand equals value. If a 1979 penny were discovered with a previously unknown error, something never seen before, and if it were authenticated and graded at the highest level, it could potentially become one of the most valuable modern coins ever. The market thrives on uniqueness, and collectors are always searching for something that stands out. Now consider the role of technology. In today's world, collectors have access to advanced tools and online databases that make it easier to research coins. High-resolution images, digital microscopes, and online marketplaces have transformed the hobby. A person no longer needs to visit a physical coin shop to learn about their coins; they can do it from their home. Social media has also played a major role. Videos and posts showcasing rare coin discoveries can go viral, attracting new collectors and increasing demand. This has led to a surge of interest in coins like the 1979 penny, as people begin to search their own collections for hidden treasures. But with this increased interest comes misinformation. Many exaggerated claims circulate online, suggesting that common coins are worth enormous amounts. This can lead to confusion and unrealistic expectations. It is important to rely on verified sales data and expert opinions when determining a coin's value. Let's shift our focus to the economic background of 1979. This was a time of inflation in the United States, with rising prices and economic uncertainty. The value of money was changing, and even small denominations like the penny played a role in everyday transactions. Coins from this era are a reflection of that economic environment. The production of pennies in such large quantities was necessary to meet the demands of commerce. Yet, despite being so common, these coins have survived decades, carrying with them a connection to that period in history. And now imagine the journey of a single 1979 penny over the years. It might have been minted in Philadelphia, placed into circulation, used in countless transactions, and eventually set aside in a jar or collection. Decades later, it could be rediscovered and examined for its potential value. This journey is what makes coin collecting so unique. Every coin has traveled through time, interacting with people and places in ways that we can only imagine. Another important aspect to consider is the difference between intrinsic value and collectible value. The intrinsic value of a 1979 penny is based on its metal content, which is relatively low. But its collectible value can be much higher, depending on its rarity and condition. This distinction is crucial. A coin does not need to be made of precious metal to be valuable. Its worth comes from its uniqueness and the demand among collectors. Now let's talk about investment. Some people collect coins purely for enjoyment, while others see it as a form of investment. Rare coins can appreciate in value over time, making them an attractive option for long-term investment. However, like any investment, there are risks involved. The value of coins can fluctuate, and not every coin will increase in value. It requires knowledge, patience, and careful decision-making. Investors often focus on high-quality, rare coins with strong demand. The 1979 penny, while generally common, can still be part of an investment strategy if it includes rare variations or high-grade examples. As we continue exploring this topic, it becomes clear that the story of the 1979 1-cent coin is much larger than the coin itself. It is a gateway into a world of history, economics, art, and human curiosity, and perhaps the most exciting part is this: the story is still being written. New discoveries are still being made. Coins that were once overlooked are being re-examined. The market continues to evolve. Somewhere, right now, there could be a 1979 penny sitting unnoticed, waiting for someone to recognize its true value. Now we move into one of the most powerful and practical parts of this entire journey: the real strategies, habits, and methods that serious collectors use to identify coins that can potentially change their lives. Because at this stage, it's no longer just about knowing facts, it's about applying that knowledge in the real world. First, you need to understand how collectors actually search for coins. This process is called coin roll hunting. It sounds simple, but it requires patience, consistency, and a sharp eye. Collectors go to banks and request rolls of pennies, sometimes hundreds or even thousands at a time. They then carefully go through each coin, one by one, looking for anything unusual. Now imagine sitting with a pile of hundreds of 1979 pennies. At first, they all look identical. Same color, same design, same year. But this is where trained observation comes into play. A collector doesn't just look, they examine. They check the mint mark. They analyze the surface. They tilt the coin under light to see how it reflects. They use magnification to inspect the smallest details. One of the first things experts check is the mint mark area. On a 1979 penny, this is located just below the date. A coin with no mint mark comes from Philadelphia. A D means Denver, and an S indicates San Francisco. But collectors don't just note the letter, they study its shape, position, and clarity. Even slight irregularities can indicate something rare. Next comes the lettering. Words like liberty and in God we trust are closely examined. If there is any doubling, distortion, or unusual spacing, it could point to a double die error. These are often subtle and require magnification, but they can significantly increase a coin's value. Then comes the surface itself. Experts look for die cracks, raised lines, or unusual textures. A small line across the coin might seem like damage, but if it is raised rather than scratched, it could be a die crack, a sign of a worn or damaged die used during minting. Another advanced technique is checking the alignment of the coin. If you hold the coin and rotate it vertically, the front and back should align properly. If they don't, it could indicate a rotated die error. These are less common and can be valuable depending on the degree of rotation. Now let's talk about weight testing, a simple but powerful method. A standard 1979 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If you find one that is significantly lighter or heavier, it could indicate an off-metal error. For example, if a penny were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different coin, its weight would be different. This alone can turn an ordinary-looking coin into something extraordinary. Serious collectors often use digital scales for this purpose. Even a small difference of a fraction of a gram can be important. Precision matters. Magnification tools are also essential. A basic magnifying glass can help, but many collectors use jeweler's loupes or digital microscopes. These tools reveal details that are invisible to the naked eye. Tiny doubling, microcracks, and surface anomalies become much easier to identify. Now let's move into real case scenarios, the kinds of discoveries that keep collectors motivated. There have been instances where people found rare error coins in everyday circulation. A person might receive change from a store, notice something unusual about a coin, and later discover that it is worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These stories are real, and they happen more often than you might think. One collector once discovered a penny with a clear off-center strike. Nearly 50% of the design was missing. While most people would consider it damaged, it was actually a valuable error coin. It later sold for a significant amount. Another example involves coins with dramatic die breaks, where a large portion of the design appears distorted. These coins are rare and highly collectible because they represent a moment when the minting equipment was failing. Now let's talk about something even more advanced: transitional errors. These occur when the composition of a coin changes from one year to another, and a coin is accidentally struck using the wrong metal during the transition. While 1979 itself was not a major transition year for pennies, the concept is important because if such an error were discovered from that year, it could be incredibly valuable. For example, imagine a 1979 penny made from a different alloy than intended, something that should not exist. That would immediately capture the attention of collectors worldwide. Now let's shift focus to how coins are sold. Once a collector believes they have found something valuable, the next step is verification and selling. High-value coins are usually sent to professional grading services. These organizations authenticate the coin, assign it a grade, and seal it in a protective holder. This process adds credibility. Buyers are much more willing to pay high prices for a coin that has been professionally graded and authenticated. Coins are then sold through auctions, private sales, or online marketplaces. Auctions are particularly important because they allow multiple buyers to compete, often driving the price higher. Now let's explore the emotional side again, the moment of discovery. Imagine sitting at a table, going through a pile of coins, and suddenly noticing something different. Your heart rate increases. You take a closer look. You grab a magnifying glass. The details start to reveal themselves. In that moment, everything changes. That's the feeling collectors chase, the possibility that at any second, they might find something extraordinary. But here's the reality check. For every rare coin found, there are thousands, even millions, that are completely ordinary. This is why patience is essential. Coin collecting is not about instant success, it's about long-term dedication. Now let's address a critical mindset shift. Many people enter this space hoping to find a coin worth millions overnight. While that dream is exciting, it can also lead to disappointment if expectations are unrealistic. Instead, experienced collectors focus on building knowledge. They study coins, learn from experts, and gradually improve their skills. Over time, their ability to spot valuable coins increases. The 1979 penny becomes a training ground, a way to practice observation, identification, and analysis. Even if most coins are not valuable, the process itself builds expertise. Another important factor is networking. Serious collectors often connect with others through forums, clubs, and online communities. They share discoveries, ask questions, and learn from each other. This collective knowledge helps everyone improve. Now let's talk about storage and preservation in more detail. If you find a coin that appears valuable, the worst thing you can do is mishandle it. Never clean a coin. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. Cleaning can damage the surface and drastically reduce the coin's value. Instead, store it in a protective holder. Keep it away from moisture, heat, and direct contact. The goal is to preserve its condition exactly as it is. As we continue, it becomes clear that the journey of the 1979 1-cent coin is not just about finding value, it's about developing a new way of seeing. A way of noticing details that others overlook. A way of turning ordinary moments into opportunities, and somewhere in that process, the possibility always remains that one coin, one discovery, one moment could change everything. Now we enter one of the most critical and eye-opening parts of this entire journey, the truth behind myths, the reality of extreme valuations, the hidden scams in the coin market, and the real stories of coins that shocked the world with their prices. Because at this level, it's no longer just about discovery, it's about separating fact from fiction. Let's begin with one of the biggest questions that naturally comes to mind. Can a 1979 1-cent coin really be worth something as extreme as $263 million? The honest answer is this: in today's real, verified coin market, number 1979 penny has ever sold anywhere near that amount. In fact, no modern penny has ever reached even a fraction of that figure. The highest priced coins in history are usually extremely rare, often dating back hundreds of years, made of precious metals like gold or silver, and tied to major historical events. So why does such a huge number get associated with a simple penny? Because of hype, speculation, and sometimes misinformation. In today's digital world, exaggerated claims spread very quickly. A single post or video can make it seem like an ordinary coin is worth millions, even when there is no verified sale to support it. This creates excitement, but it also creates confusion, however, and this is important. Just because that specific number may not be realistic doesn't mean the coin has no value. The real value lies in rare variations, high-grade examples, and unique errors. These can still reach impressive prices, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Now let's talk about real auction behavior. When a rare coin appears at auction, its price is not fixed, it is determined by demand. If two collectors both want the same coin and believe it is rare enough, they may continue bidding higher and higher. This is how some coins reach unexpected prices. There have been cases where coins estimated at a few $100s ended up selling for thousands simply because of competitive bidding. This is the power of the market. It is driven by human desire as much as by rarity. Now let's expose some common scams and misunderstandings that exist in the coin world, especially around coins like the 1979 penny. One of the most common scams is selling ordinary coins at extremely high prices by claiming they are rare. You might see listings online where a regular 1979 penny is priced at hundreds or thousands of dollars with no real justification. These listings rely on uninformed buyers who don't know how to verify value. Another trick is labeling coins as rare simply because they are old or look unusual. Age alone does not make a coin valuable. A 1979 penny is over 4 decades old, but it is still very common unless it has specific rare features. There are also fake error coins. Some individuals intentionally damage coins to make them appear like mint errors. For example, they might file down part of a coin to mimic a clipped planchet or use tools to create marks that resemble doubling. These are not genuine errors, and experienced collectors can usually identify them. This is why authentication is so important. If you believe you have a valuable coin, it should be examined by professionals. Without proper verification, it is very difficult to prove authenticity, especially for high-value items. Now let's talk about real examples of coins reaching extreme values, not necessarily the 1979 penny, but coins in general. There have been coins that sold for millions of dollars due to their rarity and historical importance. These include early American coins, unique mint errors, and coins with extremely limited surviving examples. These cases show that extraordinary value is possible in the coin world, but it requires extraordinary circumstances. So where does the 1979 penny fit into this? It sits in an interesting position. It is common enough to be accessible to everyone, yet it still holds the potential for rare variations. This makes it a perfect entry point for collectors. It teaches the fundamentals of grading, error detection, and market understanding. Now let's explore the psychology behind why people are so fascinated by the idea of a valuable penny. There is something powerful about the idea that a tiny, everyday object could be worth a fortune. It challenges our perception of value. It makes us question what we overlook in our daily lives. And it creates a sense of possibility that hidden opportunities might exist all around us. This is why stories about rare coins go viral. They tap into a universal idea, finding treasure where no one else is looking. But there is also a danger in this mindset. If someone focuses only on the dream of instant wealth, they may ignore the reality of how the market works. This can lead to poor decisions, such as overpaying for coins or falling for misleading claims. The key is balance. Enjoy the excitement, but stay grounded in knowledge. Now let's talk about market trends. In recent years, interest in coin collecting has increased, partly due to online content and social media. More people are checking their coins, learning about errors, and entering the market. This increased demand can sometimes raise prices, especially for coins that gain attention. However, trends can change. A coin that is popular today may lose attention tomorrow. That is why long-term value is usually tied to true rarity and quality, not temporary hype. Another important concept is population reports. Professional grading services keep records of how many coins have been graded at each level. If only a small number of 1979 pennies exist in very high grades, those coins become more valuable because of their scarcity. For example, if thousands of coins are graded at MS-60 but only a few exist at MS-67 or higher, collectors will pay a premium for those top-grade examples. This is where condition rarity comes into play. Now imagine combining multiple rare factors: a 1979 penny that is in near-perfect condition, with a strong red color, and a clear minting error. That combination could make it extremely desirable, and this is how value builds, layer by layer. Let's also discuss patience again, because it cannot be overstated. The coin market rewards those who take time to learn, observe, and wait. Rushing decisions often leads to mistakes. Some collectors spend years searching before they find something truly valuable. But when they do, it validates all the time and effort they invested. Now think about your own situation. Somewhere in your home, there might be coins sitting unused. Maybe in a drawer, a jar, or an old box. Most of them are probably ordinary, but maybe, just maybe, one of them is not. That possibility is what keeps this journey alive. As we move forward, we will go even deeper into expert-level insights, including how professionals evaluate coins in seconds, the exact checklist they follow, and the hidden indicators that separate a common coin from a rare one. Now we step into the level where amateurs become experts, where casual curiosity turns into sharp instinct, and where a single glance at a coin can reveal more than hours of guessing. This is the level of professional thinking: how experts evaluate coins like the 1979 1 cent in seconds, what patterns they recognize instantly, and what hidden signals they rely on to separate a common coin from something potentially extraordinary. The first thing you need to understand is that experts do not hope a coin is valuable, they test it mentally, almost like a checklist running in their mind automatically. Over time, this process becomes so fast that it feels like intuition, but in reality, it is built on deep knowledge and repeated exposure. When an expert picks up a 1979 penny, the very first thing they notice is the overall appearance. Not just whether it looks clean or dirty, but how the light reflects off its surface. Luster is one of the strongest indicators of a coin's condition. A true uncirculated coin has a specific type of shine that moves in a circular pattern when tilted under light. This is called cartwheel luster, and once you learn to recognize it, it becomes very difficult to mistake. If that luster is broken, dull, or uneven, it usually means the coin has been circulated or mishandled. Even the smallest interruption in that shine can reduce the grade significantly. Next, experts look at high points of the design. On the 1979 penny, this includes areas like Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and hair. These are the parts that wear down first during circulation. If these areas are still sharp and detailed, it is a strong sign that the coin has not been heavily used. Then comes the strike quality. Not all coins are struck equally. Even within the same year and mint, some coins have stronger, sharper details than others. A well-struck 1979 penny will have clear lines in Lincoln's hair and a well-defined Lincoln memorial on the reverse. Weak strikes may appear flat or lacking detail, even if the coin is technically uncirculated. Now we move into one of the most powerful expert skills: pattern recognition. Experienced collectors have seen thousands, sometimes millions of coins. This allows them to instantly recognize when something is off. It might be a slightly unusual shape in a letter, a strange texture on the surface, or a detail that doesn't match the standard design. This is often how rare errors are discovered, not by searching for something specific, but by noticing something that doesn't look right. Another expert-level technique is edge and rim analysis. Beginners often ignore the edges of coins, but professionals pay close attention to them. The rim should be even and well-formed. If it appears unusually wide, thin, or distorted, it could indicate a striking error such as a broad strike or off-center strike. The edge can also reveal signs of tampering. If someone has tried to alter the coin, the edge often shows evidence of filing, cutting, or pressure marks. This is one way experts detect fake error coins. Now let's talk about sound, something very few beginners consider. Experienced collectors sometimes use a gentle ring test for certain coins, though this is more common with silver coins than copper. Still, the concept is important. Different metals produce different sounds when lightly tapped. While this is not a primary method for pennies, it highlights how deeply experts analyze coins using multiple senses. Another powerful tool is comparison. Experts rarely evaluate a coin in isolation. They compare it with known examples either physically or through high-quality images. This helps them identify subtle differences that might not be obvious otherwise. For example, if a collector suspects a doubled die on a 1979 penny, they will compare the lettering with verified doubled die examples. This allows them to confirm whether the doubling is real or just machine doubling, which is much more common and less valuable. And now let's move into time efficiency. A professional coin dealer might evaluate hundreds of coins in a single day. They don't spend minutes on each coin, they spend seconds. Their process is refined to the point where they can quickly eliminate common coins and focus only on those with potential. This is an important lesson. Most coins are filtered out very quickly. Only a small percentage move to deeper inspection. Now imagine applying this to a large batch of 1979 pennies. An expert would rapidly scan through them, pulling out only those that show strong luster, unusual features, or high-quality strikes. These selected coins would then be examined more closely. This two-step process, quick filtering followed by detailed analysis, is what makes large-scale coin searching efficient. Let's now talk about one of the most misunderstood aspects: cleaning versus preservation. Many beginners think cleaning a coin will make it more valuable because it looks shinier. In reality, cleaning almost always reduces value. Experts can immediately recognize a cleaned coin. It often has unnatural brightness, fine scratches, or a washed-out appearance. Natural luster is very different from artificial shine. Once a coin is cleaned, it loses part of its originality, and originality is everything in the coin market. Now let's go deeper into grading from an expert perspective. While beginners might focus on obvious wear, experts look at micro details. They examine tiny marks called contact marks, which occur when coins hit each other during storage or transport. The number, size, and location of these marks all affect the grade. For example, a small mark on Lincoln's cheek might reduce the grade more than several marks in less visible areas. This is because certain parts of the coin are more important visually. Experts also evaluate eye appeal, a subjective but important factor. Two coins with the same technical grade might have different market values if one looks more attractive than the other. Factors like color, toning, and overall balance contribute to eye appeal. Now let's explore a real expert mindset scenario. Imagine you are handed a random 1979 penny. Within seconds, you would mentally check: is the luster strong and uninterrupted? Are the high points sharp or worn? Is the strike quality strong? Are there any visible errors or unusual features? What is the color classification: red, red-brown, or brown? Is there any sign of cleaning or damage? Does anything look different from normal examples? This mental checklist becomes automatic with practice. Now let's talk about something even deeper: instinct built from repetition. After years of handling coins, experts develop a sense of feel. Not just physical touch, but a mental recognition of normal versus abnormal. This is why they can sometimes spot valuable coins almost instantly. But here's the truth: that level of skill does not come overnight. It comes from consistent exposure, study, and real-world experience. Now let's connect all of this back to the 1979 penny. Why is this coin so important for learning? Because it is common enough to practice on, yet complex enough to teach advanced concepts. You can find many examples, compare them, and train your eye to notice differences. It is like a training ground for building expertise, and once you develop these skills, you can apply them to any coin, not just pennies. Now imagine reaching a point where you no longer see coins as ordinary objects. Instead, you see layers of information: history, condition, rarity, potential value. Every coin becomes a puzzle waiting to be solved. This is the transformation from a casual observer to a true collector. Now we are entering the deepest level of this entire journey, the level where coins are no longer just collectibles or investments, but symbols of extreme rarity, obsession, and sometimes even legend. This is the space where ordinary logic starts to bend, where markets behave in unexpected ways, and where a simple coin like the 1979 1-cent can, under the rarest conditions, moved from being just another penny to something people talk about for years. At this level, you need to understand one powerful truth: value is not always logical, it is emotional, psychological, and driven by perception as much as reality. Let's break this down. In the highest levels of coin collecting, the buyers are not average collectors anymore. These are elite collectors, investors, institutions, and sometimes even individuals who are not just buying a coin, they are buying status, uniqueness, and the right to own something that almost no one else can have. And now imagine this scenario carefully. A 1979 penny is discovered. At first, it looks normal. But after expert examination, something unbelievable is found. It is struck on a completely wrong planchet, not just a minor variation, but something that should not exist at all. Maybe it was struck on a foreign metal blank, or a test alloy that was never meant for circulation. Its weight is completely off. Its color is unusual. Its composition does not match any known records. Now add another layer: the coin is in near perfect condition. No wear, strong luster, sharp strike. Then another layer: only one example is known to exist. No duplicates. No previous records. Completely unique. At this moment, the coin crosses a line. It is no longer just a collectible, it becomes a unique asset. And when something is truly unique, its value is no longer fixed by typical market rules. Now think about what happens next: the coin is authenticated by top experts. It is graded at an extremely high level. News begins to spread. Collectors around the world hear about it. Articles are written. Videos are made. Discussions begin. Demand starts building, not because people need the coin, but because they want it. And this is where psychology takes over. If two wealthy collectors both decide that they must own this coin, the price can rise to levels that seem completely irrational to outsiders. This is how record-breaking sales happen, not through logic alone, but through competition and desire. Now connect this to the idea of extreme values like hundreds of millions of dollars. Is it realistic for a 1979 penny today? No, not in current verified markets, but is it theoretically possible under extreme, unique conditions in the future? That's where things become interesting, because markets evolve. New collectors enter. Wealth shifts. Interests change. What seems impossible today may not be impossible decades from now, especially if a coin becomes culturally significant or globally recognized. Now let's talk about legacy. Some coins become famous not just because of their rarity, but because of their story. Once a coin gains a story, a discovery, a mystery, a controversy, it becomes more than metal. It becomes a narrative, and humans value stories. Imagine a 1979 penny known as the impossible coin, the only one of its kind, discovered in an unexpected place, surrounded by mystery. Over time, its story grows. More people hear about it. It becomes part of collector culture. At that point, its value is no longer just based on rarity, it is based on legend. Now let's go deeper into something very few people understand: market timing. Even the rarest coin in the world will not reach its highest value unless it is sold at the right time, in the right environment, to the right audience. If a rare 1979 penny is sold quietly, it might not reach its full potential. But if it is introduced during a major auction event, with global attention and competitive bidders, its price could increase dramatically. This is why major auction houses play such an important role. They don't just sell coins, they create events. They build anticipation. They bring together the right buyers. Now let's talk about scarcity versus availability. There is a difference between a coin being rare and a coin being available. A coin might be rare, but if collectors are not willing to sell their examples, the available supply becomes even smaller. This increases demand and can drive prices higher. Now imagine a rare 1979 penny that collectors refuse to sell. Over time, it becomes almost impossible to acquire. When one finally appears on the market, buyers may be willing to pay far more than usual just for the opportunity. This is how pressure builds in the market. Now let's shift to something even more subtle: the perception of rarity. Sometimes, a coin becomes valuable not just because it is rare, but because people believe it is rare. This perception can be influenced by media, collector discussions, and even rumors. This is why knowledge is power. Experts rely on verified data, while beginners may rely on hype. The difference between the two can mean the difference between profit and loss. Now let's connect all of this back to you. At the beginning of this journey, the 1979 penny might have seemed like nothing. Just a small coin, easy to ignore, but now, after going through every layer, design, history, errors, grading, market behavior, psychology, and elite-level dynamics, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a possibility, not a guaranteed fortune. Not a promise of millions. But a possibility that something small can hold unexpected value if you know how to see it, and that is the real transformation. You stop looking at coins as currency, and start seeing them as information. Every detail matters. Every variation matters. Every mark, every reflection, every tiny difference can carry meaning. Now imagine applying this mindset beyond coins. You start noticing details in everything. Patterns. Differences. Opportunities that others overlook. That is the real power behind this entire journey, and somewhere, right now, a 1979 penny exists that has not yet been fully understood. Maybe it's sitting in a drawer. Maybe it's mixed with hundreds of others. Maybe someone has already seen it but didn't recognize its significance. And now, we arrive at the final stage of this journey, not just the ending, but the realization of everything this small 1979 1-cent coin truly represents. Because after everything we have explored, one thing becomes clear: this was never just about a coin, it was about perspective, awareness, and the hidden value in things most people ignore. Think back to the very beginning. A single penny. Something so common that people barely bend down to pick it up. Something that gets lost in drawers, tossed into jars, forgotten in pockets. A coin that millions of people have seen, touched, and ignored without a second thought, and yet, within that same coin lies history, craftsmanship, economic significance, and the possibility, however rare, of something extraordinary. The 1979 1-cent coin carries the face of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of resilience, leadership, and transformation. It was minted during a time of economic pressure, passed through countless hands, and became part of everyday life. It witnessed moments, transactions, decisions, small pieces of human activity that together form a much larger story. But here's the most powerful part: the value of that coin never changed on its own. It was always there. What changed was understanding. The moment someone looks closer, studies deeper, questions more, that's when value begins to reveal itself. Not just in coins, but in everything. This is the difference between seeing and observing. Most people see a 1979 penny and move on. A collector observes it, studies the shine, the weight, the tiny details in the letters, the condition of the surface, the possibility of an error. They don't just accept what it looks like, they question what it might be, and that single shift in mindset changes everything, because the world is full of ordinary things that are not actually ordinary at all. And now imagine this: somewhere, right now, there is a person sitting with a small collection of coins. Maybe they inherited it. Maybe they saved it over time. Maybe they don't even care much about it. Inside that collection could be a 1979 penny, and inside that penny could be a detail no one has noticed yet. A slight doubling in the letters. An unusual weight. A rare minting error. Or simply a condition so perfect that it stands above millions of others. This very moment, that coin is still just a penny to them, but the second it is recognized, everything changes. Its identity changes, its value changes, its story changes, and that moment, that exact second of realization, is what this entire journey has been about, because it proves something deeper. Value is not always obvious to it is discovered. Now let's go even deeper into the final truth: the idea of a 1979 penny being worth something like $263 million may not be grounded in today's reality, but it represents something powerful. The human tendency to imagine extreme potential, and that imagination is not useless. It is what drives exploration. It is what pushes people to check their coins, to learn, to question, to search. Without that curiosity, no discoveries would ever happen. So even if the number itself is exaggerated, the effect it creates is real. It makes people look closer, and sometimes, looking closer is all it takes. Now let's bring everything together. You have learned about design, weight, composition, mint marks, grading, errors, market behavior, psychology, scams, expert techniques, and elite-level thinking, but all of that knowledge leads to one simple action. Pay attention, because the difference between someone who finds value and someone who misses it is not luck, it is awareness. One person sees a coin and ignores it, another person sees the same coin and examines it. That's it. That's the difference. Now imagine applying this mindset beyond coins. In business. In opportunities. In relationships. In life. How many things are overlooked simply because they appear ordinary? How many opportunities are missed because no one stopped to look closer? This is why The story of a single penny matters, because it trains your mind to notice. Question. Explore, and once you develop that habit, it stays with you. Now picture this as the final scene. A quiet table. A small pile of coins, among them a 1979 penny, and nothing special at first glance. You pick it up, you tilt it under the light, you look closer, and in that moment, you are no longer just holding a coin, you are holding a possibility. A story. A hidden detail waiting to be understood. Maybe it turns out to be ordinary. Or maybe, just maybe, it doesn't, and that maybe is where everything lives, because the world does not reward those who assume, it rewards those who look deeper. So the next time you see a coin, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's worthless, take a second, look closer, because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest surprises, and sometimes, a single penny is not just a penny at all.